Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Steve Jaffe. He's an author, speaker, and marketing strategist, and we'll learn how to navigate job loss, build resilience, and find new career opportunities. We'll learn about strategies to turn setbacks into comebacks. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Steve. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn about how one can turn job loss into opportunity. Talk about all this in this backdrop. But before that, let's learn a bit more about your background, your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Sure. Thank you. So 2001, I experienced my first layoff, and I found it to be really pretty devastating. It was a very difficult experience for me, and I spent years managing the grief that came from that layoff. 22 years later, I had my fourth layoff, and I found that I was able to get through that experience in just a matter of months. And the realization was I had learned how to manage grief associated with a layoff in such a way that it didn't have the same impact or effect on me. And as I thought about that, I wanted to share that experience and that knowledge with other people that were also going through a layoff so that they were able to manage it in months rather than years. So in your introduction, you mentioned I have a background in marketing. I spent over 25 years in marketing and advertising, and that's one of the industries most heavily impacted by layoffs. So it's a great career, but it's one that you may find yourself on the other side of being laid off a number of times. So I felt like I had a point of view and some experience, and I wanted to share that with folks. So I wrote a book, and it just came out. You can find it on Amazon, and it's called The Layoff Journey. And I invite anybody to purchase it that's either experiencing a layoff, knows somebody that is going through a layoff, or think that there may be a layoff coming. Unfortunately, layoffs have become so commonplace now that it's really affecting everyone in some way, shape, or form. Just a quick statistic, about 40% of all Americans have been laid off at least once in their lives. And one of the things that I want to try and do through the book is shed light on that so that people don't feel shame or embarrassment by being laid off. Again, it's becoming so commonplace now that any sort of embarrassment just isn't really warranted.
Absolutely, absolutely, Steve. Well explained. Now, I want to understand. In several cultures, it is different, but in the US, especially in the Western world, especially in the US, layoffs are very common. As you said, the statistics says it all. And when people know about it, when you get a job, you know that there are layoffs happening around. Maybe you have been replaced after somebody's layoff, and in that backdrop, why do people still have so much of grief when you know that you are?
Yeah.
Is it that people have a lot of expectations around what they are doing from the people they are dealing with, in spite of, nowadays, even in different cultures, people understand that layoff is a part of business and they don't care now.
Yeah.
Why do you talk about, 7 stages of layoff grief? Tell us a
Yeah.
bit about
Yeah.
this so that people know that it's a fact of life. It's like divorces can happen. They understand
Yeah.
about this. When you get
Yeah.
married, you understand about this. Why do you so grieve layoff so much?
Well, I think the challenge is that the baggage that people hold on this is that there's a feeling that somehow they did something wrong, that it's not the company that's at fault, it's the person that's being laid off. And that's just not the case. Companies will lay people off in order to recoup revenue. It's the quickest way to recoup revenue. It's easier than increasing sales. So in difficult times, you see layoffs almost as the first choice rather than the last resort. And it's that feeling of, well, maybe I could have worked harder. Maybe I could have done something more. And it's a feeling as if your layoff is like punishment for something that you didn't do. And that's what is really difficult for people to come to terms with. And that's one of the things I write about in the book, is that there's really nothing you could have done. If the company makes the determination that they need to institute layoffs in order to increase revenue, you're just a statistic. You're just a name on a list that your salary will go to the bottom line in terms of revenue. So by dispelling the myth of this is somehow your fault, I think helps break away some of that baggage, and people realize, well, this isn't anything that I could have prevented, and therefore that grief that I have, whether it's anger, depression, denial, some of the other 7 stages, it allows people to start doing that work on, okay, this is of no fault of my own. And I think that in America, some of the industries that are most affected are those either like in the technology, software, startup communities, or like media, finance, marketing, advertising. And they each have their own issues on why they're kind of a quote unquote easy target. But and then that may not be the case in other countries. In other countries, it may be more prevalent that, look, this is just, they don't attach shame or embarrassment to it. So that could be a reason. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you talked about that, you are just a statistic. What holds me back from treating my company also as a statistic, my boss also as a statistic? One manager, two managers, three managers, five managers. Means, is it that we are so gullible that we get into all this trap when someone says all these different sort of norms that they are coming about, heart centered leadership and all that, human leadership and all that does
Yeah.
not make sense. Means, that is there to talk, let them
Yeah.
talk. But you
Yeah.
talk about yourself, you just treat them static. Don't burn your bridges, be nice, be a good employee, but then don't consider that they are family. They are also
Yeah.
statistics for you. You get another job, you forget them. Be
Yeah.
nice to them. But this is the way it is. This is the art of simple survival. That's it. Isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what's happening now is you're seeing employee loyalty go down quite a bit from where it was previously, because people are realizing, look, they can get rid of me at any point, at any time, for any reason. They're not showing me any loyalty. Why should I show them? So people are leaving jobs. They're going from job to job in higher numbers than they used to, because that loyalty just isn't there, and it's being reciprocated. It's on both ends now. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yes, we are humans, and humans are humans. No, nothing can replace. Bosses can be non-humans, but as an individual, you have to be
Right.
human, and you have to
Right.
have coping mechanisms. You talk about coping mechanisms that can help regain clarity and resilience after a layoff. If you can throw some light on that.
Yeah. In my book, I take kind of a whole body approach, and I talk about mind, body, spirit, and the impact of a layoff affects all 3 of those things. And I think in order to recover from a layoff and the grief associated with the layoff, you have to take a strategic approach to managing mind, body, spirit. So there are things that I talk about as simple as some breathing exercises, some simple meditations that you can do. I talk about exercising and like getting some physical stimulation and the benefits of that from the chemicals that it releases in your brain, like dopamine and serotonin and all these other really beneficial natural chemicals to battle depression and some of those other things. And then I talk about the power of networking and connecting and finding a new support system outside of um, uh, those connections that you used to have in business and at the office. Um, so the kind of the whole body approach, the effects of grief really impact everything about the person, and it's important to address each of those areas in a way that you're helping them recover from that impact. Some stages of grief impact different areas of the body, maybe more pronounced. But it's important to kind of, I think the bottom line is you need to take care of yourself and you need to take care of your whole self. So the things that I write about are ways of managing grief through kind of your whole system and everything that comes from that.
Absolutely, Steve. You talk about personal network. Now, everyone has their personal network, less, more. How should one make use of this thing called personal network? This is your, net worth in a lot of sense. How do you bring that many a times we just talk about networking in business and all, which is very good, but then personal network also is very important. How do we make sure that we are actually building a network when things are very good, and
Yeah.
then that personal network stands with us? At least we can test it, and then we can see how much it is going to be of help. How do we do that? Have you mentioned about that?
Yeah.
We'll come to the book
Yeah.
separately, but I just want to touch on this importance role of personal network in our, getting away from our layoffs and rebuilding things for us.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you nailed it when you said building your network like before you need it. After a layoff isn't really the time to start building your network. You need to have that in place before you need it, before you've been laid off. And I think that's built from mentors, trusted associates, confidants, people that you admire, look up to, people that demonstrate the leadership abilities and talents that you admire. And throughout our careers, we encounter those people. Unfortunately, there may be few and far between, but when you do find them, it's important to hold on to them and really nurture that relationship so that when you're in a situation where you find yourself now needing assistance and you need a lifeline, they're there for you. So mentors, those trusted people are really, really important, not only to help you manage the grief and help you feel not alone and develop this new network and support system, but the after effect of a layoff is you need to find another job. And that network becomes really, really valuable when you're in the job market and you're trying to find your next position. I write about over the course of my career, about 25% of my jobs have come from positions that were never listed on a job board or anywhere. And that came from a network of mine saying, oh, I know of this position. I think you'd be great for it. Let me introduce you to so-and-so. And I think that's becoming more and more common and more necessary as job boards and companies are getting inundated with resumes. They post a job and within a day or two, they have, like thousands of resumes. It's gonna be really difficult to get your resume to the top of that inbox. But that network and that support system will help you navigate and probably find some things that you wouldn't even find on a open job board.
Absolutely. Now let us get to your book, The Layoff Journey from Dismissal to Discovery. Tell us a bit about this book. what inspired you? I just want to understand it better, even at the cost
Yeah.
of some repetition.
No, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So, in the summer of 2023, I was laid off from a SaaS startup, and there were about 20% of the company that was laid off along with me. And when I had the realization that I was managing those stages of grief differently than I had previously, and that was because I had learned all of these coping skills and coping mechanisms, I wanted to share that with that group of 20% that were laid off. And I had wanted to write a book for quite a long time. And I had friends and family who all encouraged me and said, I think you're a good writer. You really ought to write a book. But I didn't have the subject matter. I didn't have the topic that I felt I could really contribute on or that really interests me. And I thought I could do much with. But the realization of the coping skills and what was needed to manage the feelings associated with a layoff really resonated with me in a way where I said, I think I could help some people. And I think there's something that I could add to the conversation. There's a famous old quote that says something to the effect of, if you can't find a book on a topic that you want to read about, then you have to write about it. And that's how I felt. I felt that there really wasn't a lot of conversation around the stages of grief associated with the layoff. And I felt like it was so essential. And I wanted to share what I've learned with others. So that became the basis of the book and my motivation. And I feel like if I can help a couple of people get through what they're experiencing in a way that it doesn't feel as difficult, then I feel like I've done what I set out to do.
Right, Steve. Now, layoff is a reality. You can grieve less, you can grieve more, but layoff is a reality. You have to find another job if you need it. So the whole point is, how do you treat this situation? Whether you treat it as an issue or you treat it as an opportunity. How have you dealt with this part of it, making it an opportunity for yourself and leaving the past or statistics behind? Those statistics are gone. Build new
Yeah.
statistics which work in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way, so I would never say that a layoff is a blessing in disguise. It's not a blessing in any way, but it does give you an opportunity to press pause and hit the reset button if necessary. So there are times in someone's career when you may be going down a path that maybe it's not where you want to be. Maybe you've chosen a field, an industry that may be shrinking, and maybe you see an opportunity for growth in a different area. I talk about making pivots, and they don't have to be dramatic. They can be subtle. But a layoff does give you the opportunity to just press pause and sort of assess where you are in your life, in your career, and if that balance is where you want it to be. If you're feeling fulfilled, if you're feeling interested, if you're feeling like you have a path for career growth. There are all sorts of stories about folks who have been laid off and have used that as the springboard to something new, something different, maybe something better. So it can serve as that reset button. Again, whether it's mind, body, or spirit, you may find that you were so wrapped up in the current job that you had that you let your health deteriorate. Maybe you were so wrapped up in your job that you didn't have a work-life balance. And this may be an opportunity to find a different balance. You may find a dramatic career pivot is something that for me, I found that a pretty big dramatic pivot into writing and being an author after 25 years in marketing and advertising was sort of a calling and where I feel like I really would like to be in the later stages of my career. So, and those are assessments, and those are thoughts and feelings that you don't have time to process, or you don't have the space to process when you're working a really difficult job, 9 to 5, sometimes 60 hours a week. So sometimes a layoff may provide somebody the opportunity to find a new path forward. And maybe that's just another job. Maybe that's a job doing something that you love. And sometimes, jobs are paychecks. Sometimes you just need to put food on the table, and giving yourself space to realize that as well, that, maybe there are things that you can do in your personal life to feel fulfilled while you earn that paycheck.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn about all these things from you, Steve, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about you, learn more from you, learn also from your book, The Layoff Journey from Dismissal to Discovery. What's the best way for them to do so?
Go to Amazon. Just type in the search bar, The Layoff Journey. You can view the book on Amazon. I invite you all to purchase it. You can also find me on thestevejaffe.com. That's my personal website for the book, and they'll both get you to a place that you can learn more. And I hope to purchase a copy for yourself and somebody that you know that's going through a layoff.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.